Hey there, it is Phoenix Amore. So yes, it has been a while since I have recorded a video. Obviously, with all the drama that was going on, there was a reason for that. Now, as people can see, when I talked about my little hair goal, my hair is continuing to grow, which means guess what? I don't have as much stress as people think going on around me. So, having lunch with my mother, let me explain something to people. When people read the Bible, right, when people grow up in religion, it's a great thing because it does give them more of a moral compass. But religion can make some people crazy. And I say that because just when I use the example of reading the cursing, or when this boyfriend of my mother's, whose father happens to be a minister, when they get into a point where they can't even interpret anger for what it is, right? They don't get it. So they'll say stuff like, that came from a different place. Yes, it's called anger. When you cannot separate what you would call a demon versus somebody just being angry, you may need to step back and self-evaluate. That's the thing. That's the thing that keeps people sometime in anger, is when you can't stop to say, this person is angry. They really felt that way. There were some key things, though, and I can express this to people without shame, that my mother finally hit on. And she said, you know what? I had to think about it. And I think what happened was, when you were dealing with the second ex and all that drama, you felt like I was always taking his side on certain things. I didn't need my mother to take a side. My whole point to her was, I'm grown enough to handle this situation for myself. Those are my kids. I also knew who I was dealing with. So just like the school thing, when you have too many hands in the pot, right? You can have everything real settled. And as soon as somebody who feels like, oh, well, let me help you with that, starts stirring things around, you may mess things up for that person that had their life already how they wanted to have it lined up. That is where I say some religious people need to be careful, because you can push somebody to the point where you quote unquote trying to save them to where they do not like you. This is why I tried to explain to people when I said God will bring people to him. A lot of the times, overly religious people can be so pushy that you push people away from religion. That's dangerous, okay? And that has happened a little too often now. And even with social media, it's gotten a little dangerous for some religious people to be a little too, quote unquote, self-righteous. So you have to be careful with that too. What's happened now, where stuff finally hit the fan, is when some of the politicians, now some of them are already, right, religious. But here's the thing that you have to notice. When you have some of the politicians that know damn well they weren't religious, and now they're trying to use religion, knowing they planned on spinning it to use it to get more votes. Oh, well, that worked for the conservatives. Maybe we should try this religious thing. That's how that looks. And so now you have people, right, in the know, as you want to call it, saying, no, that stop the BS. This is really what's happened. So don't think God himself was like, no, don't do anything. Let's let them see. Since now that's supposedly Moses, right? Moses with all that money, that's a lie. Because when you read the Bible, it talks about Moses had money. God took Moses into a place of destitute to basically regain a connection with his humanity. So this is the key thing when people are like, what in the world is God trying to tell people? That's it. So all these fake folks that were fake prophets and fake Moses and all this kind of stuff that are rich, BS. That is not to say that there aren't some messengers, right, with money. What I'm saying is, when I specifically said the Holy Trinity aspect to bringing that into hip hop, just the same thing when you're tainting religion with some of the politicians that know they weren't religious before. I warned people a long time ago. So what they were going to try to do is spin it, have this gospel singer, right, say, well, God told me to work with her because now they need to fix it, right? No, he didn't. You're a liar, because that same lady was not a shaman. That same lady was not part of the Holy Trinity and booty shorts and all that kind of stuff. You have made things a hot mess. And that is basically what's happened in this regard. So when I talk about basically God not intervening, this is God leaving you to yourself. So when I put the picture up, right, of the baby with the head severed, right, that's a late term abortion. And some people I know, because a lot of people who are supposedly pro Planned Parenthood and all that had not really taken the time to really see the pic. So some parents probably freaked out like, I can't believe she put that picture. Yes, this is what they need to see, because they get wrapped up again in basically endorsing, or however you want to say it, based purely on like this click stuff. It's popular. If you remember what I called everything that's going on, I said this is basically like some prom popularity contest where people are not stopping to think really about the consequences of what's going on. So that picture alone, when I'm saying God is trying to say stop this. So the same way these same people, as I said before, would look at an ISIS or a terroristic group and say, you know what, they are so heartless, they can decapitate people. I basically was like, I'm sorry, let me let you look in the mirror. So what you're seeing in ISIS is basically a mirror reflection of a lot of the way that some of these people think, and they don't want to own it. They go into a bit of a shock and they get mad rather than look at it objectively. And even then, what people were saying is, you have some people that don't want to pay for that. They look at that as murder. So that picture was basically giving validation to those people who were like, no, I feel like I'm contributing to that picture, that baby's head being held over a jar, right? And that's real. And so all this stuff that I'm putting out there, because people have been in this fantasy land on social media, and because people try to flip it to where supposedly Planned Parenthood represents women and all this feminist stuff, where they're trying to make you, as I call it, get in their boat, you can't even halfway think for yourself the way they try to push you into the boat. And so when I talk about all this reality hitting them, I said they'll even spin the stories about the weather in order not to have to own their stuff. And this is why I tried to warn with the whole Pelosi thing. And she was reading my blog, and I said, girl, it's going to catch up. I said, you remember who drove it into the abyss? They didn't know what that meant. Oh, Donald Trump's the abyss. Oh, I'm going to show you the abyss when I say, let me move out the way. And you have these two hurricanes, boom, boom, hit. And you have California on fire and all this kind of crazy stuff. That is the abyss, sweetie. So when they did not understand trying to use religion to boost their little political points, right, being fake the way you guys have, that's the key. Moses was not rich. Moses used to be rich, and he had to get more in touch with his humanity in order to even fulfill what God needed for him to do. So when you have somebody arrogant enough to compare somebody to some false messiah the way that they had been, you have to understand why stuff is now hit the complete fan. So hopefully that's clarified some things for people. I challenge some religious people to think about what I said when I said God will bring people to him. And when God was telling me, hey, this is what I need you to do, understand something. The destitution, or however you want to call it, that wasn't a depression. That's really God put me in a place. If you remember all the prophetic dreaming I was doing, he said, let all that go. That doesn't mean he it's almost like him trusting me enough to know, okay, I'm going to show you how this feels, right? And I'm not stupid enough to let myself get so destitute that I don't rebound from it. And this is the whole thing when you looked at a Jimmy Johnson. For real, that's deep when he was saying, I built all this. It took me X amount of years to build all this. And boom, it's gone just like that. But what did he say? This is the difference between somebody who has a humble heart and some a-hole who's still trying to boast about, see, my business was blah, blah, blah. Don't care. What Jimmy Johnson said was, you know what? This hurts, tears flowing. But don't feel sorry for me. Feel sorry for the ones that don't have the money to rebuild. That would now be a messenger. This other fake fool still boasting about money and all this kind of stuff. Trust me, that's fake. Take care.